is weather or not.
And it's a special First Alert Weather Day edition of Weather or Not, with winter weather already moving into the Carolinas. Got a lot of new data coming in this morning, and sort of like anytime we track a big event like a tropical storm or a hurricane, every storm kind of has little surprises that you're like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Oh, that's interesting. And we're kind of going through that this morning. Overall, everything is on track, but we are going to kind of break down some of the things that we are seeing with some of that latest data. I'm about to have a heat stroke here in the studio because I am dressed to be outside. I will be in the PD later this afternoon, out in the elements. But before then, knocking this out.
Yeah, team coverage coming to you here on this First Alert Weather Day. Let's talk about some of those surprises, especially this morning. Atlanta currently supposed to be in rain, but how about 4 a.m., just a light snow and some sleet mixed in with this. This was just before, obviously, we went on this morning, and everything was kind of up to speed. We were like, temperatures are a little bit colder, but nothing crazy. And then look at this. Let's take you to Olympic Park. On the left is, once again, a little bit earlier, and then whiteout conditions.
Yeah, a band of really heavy snow and sleet has set up right on top of the Atlanta metro. Atlanta terrifies me on a sunny 75-degree day. I don't even want to think about how those road conditions are in and around Atlanta so far this morning. These two videos were taken 45 minutes apart. And you can see just how heavily that snow was coming down a little bit earlier this morning, and talking about the traffic issues. Let's show you some of those big issues. Cars sliding all around there in Midtown Atlanta. This is near the Buckhead area. This is video actually from my buddy, Cutter Martin. He's at our sister station there in Atlanta. Yeah, look at that.
It is a mess. And of course, they were talking about transitioning at some point to a freezing rain as we go throughout, but they have been locked in on that heavy snow band. And we talked about, even leading up to this, days in advance, someone there in those bigger cities going to kind of be on the fine-tuned line of heavy snow, freezing rain, sleet. We see that often with these systems, and it is certainly coming down still in Atlanta.
You know it's slick when a car that is parked is sliding.
Yeah.
You know you're dealing with some slick stuff. We've been talking for a few days also about that I-85 corridor. Let's take you down I-85 from Atlanta into Birmingham. This was at the National Weather Service office in Birmingham. As the snow started there, it actually started as rain and sleet in Birmingham, then transitioned over to snow. Last check, they keep sort of flipping back and forth between sleet and snow and freezing rain. I've seen some reports on the north side of Birmingham up into northern Alabama, already 3 to 4 inches of snow on the ground there.
Snow coming down there, and snow coming down at a pretty decent rate. Let's take you up into the cold core here. This is Memphis, where snow was coming down early this morning, and they have been having traffic issues for that morning commute. All the roads were treated, but it doesn't matter what happens. You can treat them all you want and plow them all you want, but if it continues to come down like they had this morning, there's certainly going to be some issues there, and that's now pivoting its way not only still for Memphis, but Nashville, Knoxville, working into the Carolinas as well. All this system, though, originating from yesterday, Jamie, even in Texas.
Yeah, Memphis, by the way, 6 inches of snow on the ground as of last check earlier this morning. This storm got its start yesterday in Texas, deep in the heart of Texas. Yeah, Dallas, not somewhere accustomed to seeing that much snow and sleet. They just got a mess yesterday. Like all the other big cities on the south, Dallas was sort of on that line between snow and sleet and freezing rain. They ended up getting a little bit of all of it yesterday. Same thing over in Denton, Texas, one of the northern suburbs of Dallas. Look at the size of those flakes coming down yesterday.
Huge flakes coming down, and actually in this area, a band of 7 to 9 inches of snow set up. You go about 25 miles to the south, they were talking about maybe just a light dusting to an inch or two. So that is once again what we were dealing with over yesterday, and that's again what I think will be the story for today. We're going to see heavy snow and then also that transition line as well. Let's take it over to Hot Springs, Arkansas. There's nothing hot about it because, yeah, we saw issues all around Arkansas, and they looked at even snow this morning. Rough morning commute for them there in Arkansas as that system was pulling out of Texas.
All right, so let's jump into it. We're in the nitty-gritty, as you called it earlier this morning, as far as what's going to be going on around here. The preps underway. North Carolina DOT was out spraying, salting, slagging, pre-treating the roads up there in North Carolina. I even saw that the bridges here on Highway 17 had been pre-treated on my way home last night and on my way in this morning. You could see the white on the bridges there where they had been pre-treated. So even down here at the beach, they're taking extra precautions, which is some good news.
Yeah, so let's talk about really fine-tuning the details here. We woke up, we were talking about it. If we get cloud cover early, temperatures are going to struggle, and I think that's where we sit right now, and that could change our forecast just a little bit as we track winter weather.
And you and I have been texting about this for literally a few days.
Yeah.
When does that cloud cover move in? Is it clear all night? Temperatures get bitter cold. Then you get the clouds to quickly come in right at sunrise to slow down temperatures warming up. I got up at 5:15. First thing I did when I got up, went outside and looked up. Starry skies. 6:15, solid overcast.
Yeah, and it came in quick.
It came in quick, and that's kind of playing the issue that we've been talking about here with our temperatures. So let's kind of jump into it here with the winter weather that we are tracking here across our area. And look at that. It's been a long time since we've seen that many winter alerts in place across the Carolinas.
Yeah, winter weather advisory once again for inland Horry County. We talked about this all the way from Williamsburg County. It wouldn't shock me if we stay cold enough to maybe see that expanded for some spots. We have sleet reported now in Charleston. We have snowflakes just to the areas north of Charleston. They're under the winter weather advisory. But I also think there's a growing concern for some sleet to maybe cut into some of those snow totals as we go into the forecast for North Carolina. Let's put this through and show you what the power outage looks like, because I also think there will be a fine line here between sleet and snow, but also some widespread freezing rain and potentially some power outage trouble.
Yeah, and that's an issue that we started talking about certainly in detail yesterday. It takes 1/4 of an inch to start breaking tree limbs and bringing down power lines. 1/4 of an inch of ice adds 500 pounds of weight on average to tree limbs and power lines. Where could we see 1/4 of an inch of ice? Fayetteville, Columbia, back into Athens, just north of Aiken, and Augusta over to Greenwood. And then it gets really tricky as we're talking about our area: Hartsville, Darlington, Bennettsville, Laurinburg. Going to be riding that line, I think, getting kind of close to that 1/4 inch mark. We're honestly going to have to wait and see as that freezing rain and sleet starts and what those temperatures do before we can get a little more confident in those areas.
And honestly, this is where a lot of ground truth is going to come in too.
Yeah.
And we're going to ask for photos and videos at the end of this. But if you have anything, or if you're up there and you can send it, that's going to help us a lot. We have the radar here, we have the temperature, but obviously we need to know if sleet or freezing rain is falling. So you're going to be a big help for us tonight. All right, let's walk you through this. And new data coming in. You can even see it when we stop here for this afternoon. Where did the cold rain go? Well, it's because temperatures are struggling. We're still in the lower 30s, and we're sitting here under that cloud cover. The question is, when will we warm up, and how far north will this warm nose go as we head into the forecast? And I think this is going to lead to more sleet, especially early on, Jamie.
I think so. And this finger of sleet that's kind of pushing into our area, sort of out ahead of the main storm, is going to be critical. As you were saying, Andrew, it may try to kind of lock in our colder air. If it was just cloudy or even a little bit of sunshine, we would probably be climbing into the mid to upper 30s. But if we get a little sleet across our area over the next few hours, that'll tend to moisten up the atmosphere a bit, but also tend to bring the temperatures down a bit. And we could really hold near that freezing mark, and that's going to be critical, especially again inland, heading into this afternoon and evening. Speaking of this evening, we'll run this through 6 o'clock, and you can see sort of by the view of this, just a mix all across the state of South Carolina. I think by that point, here along the beaches, it's primarily just a miserably cold rain. It might be 34 and raining at the beaches, but I think we're still near freezing for places like Florence and Lumberton and Darlington, and up where I'll be up in Hartsville. Probably still sleet and or freezing rain.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit more concerned about portions like southern Florence County, southern Marion County, maybe a little bit of a longer window of opportunity, even for places like Aner, Green Sea, depending on how long these temperatures want to stay that cold, because you'll notice as we advance this through, it's going to take a little bit of time, but closer to 8 o'clock, we'll get the warmer temperatures in here. And then this is where that band, and this is where I think the power outage graphic that we have lines up pretty well, where you see it holding on there. That's going to be where I think we're going to have to watch for the potential of a 1/4 inch of freezing rain. And keep in mind, I was looking at temperature profiles with this model. It still has temperatures there roughly, that I-95 corridor, Jamie, around 31, 30 degrees. So something we're going to have to watch as we go to that time frame.
Yeah, and it's going to come down to a couple of miles. We've been saying a couple days, too, that it's going to be that I-95 corridor that is really the dividing line between who gets maybe a significant amount of freezing rain, who gets maybe just a little bit. And I kind of drew that area in there again that we're watching. That's going to be the critical spot. I wouldn't be surprised over the next maybe 2 hours if it looks like that cold air is going to hold. We may see Darlington County, Marlboro County, maybe even Florence County upgraded to a winter storm warning.
Yeah, I totally could see that.
The criteria for a winter storm warning is a 1/4 inch of ice or more. So that's something we're also going to be watching for as we head through these next few hours. Let's take you into just past midnight. And by that point, things are quickly beginning to wind down. I think even after midnight, places like Florence and Lumberton probably creep up to 33 or 34. But by that point, the storm is winding down, and it's just cloudy as we head through the rest of the night into tomorrow morning.
Yeah, keep in mind as these temperatures warm up, even if it is into the upper 30s and upper 30s, and rain will help kind of eliminate some of the travel issues as we go into the overnight. So we'll have travel issues come in quick, but they'll exit just as quick as we head into tomorrow. All right, let's do a local view here.
Yeah.
We always say try to get familiar with the map, find the area near you. This map, we try to put as many locations on. And focus on the temperature too. That's going to be very key as we play forward.
Yeah, that temperature is going to be critical. So we'll take you into the early afternoon hours. Notice we're 32 to 34, maybe 35 on the beaches. And I do think, especially on the leading edge of this, a lot of this is actually going to be sleet. And as you were mentioning, Andrew, you put this out on X earlier, this model in particular kind of holding on to some sleet down here across the beaches in Horry County for a little bit longer. I think it may be on the light side.
Yeah.
I think it may be mixed with some light rain at times. But back here across the PD, that's where it's looking a lot steadier. And notice up here north and west of I-95, we're still looking at a little bit of blue showing up. I think if we do see some snow in our area, best chances would be Darlington, Hartsville, over to Bennettsville, maybe into Lumberton. But even the snow there is going to be somewhat inconsequential compared to that freezing rain potential.
And I think too, as we were doing that, the further inland you are into this band, the more moisture you're going to have to work with. So in that leading edge, we've been talking about how dry air, even if we do have sleet here in Horry County, I don't think it's going to be significant enough. You'll certainly notice it and you'll hear it, but that'll be something we watch. As we go into the forecast, you'll notice even through this evening, still holding on to temperatures. Look at them, 34 in Myrtle Beach. At that point, it's a cold rain, and the sleet continues, I think, from Aner to Conway. But as we go inland, right along that I-95 corridor, I think we maybe even see that wintry mix, a period of freezing rain somewhere there, and also potentially some snow, depending on how cold we're going to be up there. I think we'll have to watch maybe some light accumulations north of the I-95 corridor.
And I don't know if Anya back there can hear us for a 2-box on this. I want to talk about the freezing mark.
Oh, okay.
I want to take a deep dive into the freezing mark. Look at that. Ask and you shall receive. The freezing mark.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to freezing rain. Now, you can get sleet, you can get snow with temperatures above freezing.
Yep.
You can get snow and sleet at 39 and 40. Freezing rain, you got to be at that freezing mark.
Yeah.
31.8, you're still getting freezing rain.
Yep.
32.0, you're still getting freezing rain. You know what happens at 32.1? You're getting plain rain.
Yep.
So temperatures are critical for freezing rain. It absolutely has to be 32 or lower. So especially concerning for me, at least on this map, are the spots where you see it 31, 30 degrees. We've even had a couple of 29s kind of popping up in there. So I think that's going to be one of the critical parts. Again, temperatures are everything when you're talking about freezing rain.
Yeah, and as we go into the evening, you bring this up, and this is what we were talking about this morning. Look at the temperatures in Darlington. Look at the temperatures in Bennettsville, Hartsville. The plain bird's eye view, you would see, oh, it's green, we're good. If that's the temperature and the rain is coming down, we're still under freezing rain in Florence, in Darlington, in Hartsville, in Bennettsville, in Dillon. All of that is still freezing rain as we go into the 9 o'clock hour. and then we slowly improve, and I think closer to 11. And I've been saying this morning, midnight. I think if we could get to midnight, we're going to see most of this at least turn to a rain to help some conditions overnight.
Yeah, and then it really shuts down in a hurry. It shuts down, and what's really funny, as it's shutting down, look at the temperatures. Look at what they do near the beaches.
Yeah.
We may actually have today's high temperature at midnight, as temperatures may actually try to shoot up on the beaches into the upper 40s to low 50s while it's still near freezing inland. But then notice by the time you wake up tomorrow morning, we're right back down into the 30s. But speaking of tomorrow morning, a lot of folks want to know, okay, Saturday morning, is everything going to refreeze?
Yep.
I think we get enough rain, and I think we get temperatures to 33 to 34, even inland, that I don't think we see any major issues, especially on the main roads tomorrow morning. Some back roads could still be a little bit slushy and icy in spots, though.
Yeah, I think you'll see that, and I think quickly as sunshine comes back for the middle of the afternoon, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be cold. We'll still be okay, though. Temperatures in the 40s as we go into the forecast. So let's kind of break down. This is new data. You probably haven't seen it. This came in after our morning show and after the cut-ins. And this is where I think the concern lies as we go into this afternoon. Now, this is not going to say that this is going to happen. Keep in mind it's one model run. But a couple of areas of concern here are areas out inland into the PD, looking at Florence County, Marion County, and working up through that I-95 corridor. And you know that southern stem of it, you pointed it out here, Jamie. I think it's that first band that could potentially bring in some sleet and maybe some freezing rain earlier for those areas. We'll need to keep an eye on that. I still think everything along that I-95 corridor comes later tonight.
Yeah, this is
interesting.
And this is sort of a strange look to an ice accumulation map, and it's certainly different. I've kind of highlighted that area where we're going to watch closely that potential for 1/4 of an inch of ice. But notice now, even down to Georgetown, showing 1/10 of an inch. I think if we do get some ice accumulation there in the Georgetown area, it's probably earlier this afternoon as that band that we've been talking about moves in. What I think the model may be kind of messing up on, though, is this area right in here where it doesn't really show much. I think we could probably fill that in. Northern Horry County, Marion County, Dillon County, especially through 9 or 10 o'clock tonight, I do think we see some minor freezing rain in there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Lake City, Kingstree, Georgetown, if you were to get these totals as that rain moves in tonight, this is going to improve things tremendously. I think we'll eventually see your freezing rain big time issues as we head into that I-95 corridor. And I said it this morning, if we could just shift that a little bit to the southeast, I think it's the perfect forecast. Yeah. Right now, current forecast, generally speaking, a glaze to 2/10 of an inch, but I'm starting to think that we get some isolated spots near 1/4 of an inch as we head into tonight.
Yeah, and as you can see there, we've sort of, you can perfectly correlate ice accumulation to the potential for power outages. As you start getting to 1/4 of an inch or 1/3 of an inch, power outages quickly start to ramp up. I was reading the forecast discussion out of the Columbia office on my way in this morning. They're worried about some areas near Columbia potentially getting up to 1/2 an inch of freezing rain. That would certainly cause some big issues. And whether it's a glaze or whether it's 1/2 an inch, doesn't matter when it comes to road conditions. You can get freezing drizzle for 5 minutes and shut down a city.
Yes, and shut it down for a good little bit of time. And I drew these lines after the new data coming in, and I drew them southeast to kind of replicate where I think the potential of some bigger ice totals will be. And I'll be honest, with some of the new data coming in, could probably shift that shade of yellow a little bit further down now too. But this is where if we're going to see issues, I think it's going to be inland Horry County, Marion, Pamplico, Florence, and as you work to the north and northwest, you start to run, instead of minor issues, into I think what could be some widespread issues, especially on some of those roads up at the PD.
Yeah, see Hartsville way back there? That's where I'm gonna be this afternoon.
Yeah. Hopefully
I've got an overnight bag packed,
okay,
just in case, But I also started talking about this yesterday, and this is something you and I sort of internally have been talking about, and the timing. One, while we get a little bit of light stuff this morning, I think the steadier starts to arrive right around that evening commute, especially in places like Florence, Darlington, Hartsville, and Lumberton. So that right there is bad news. You got more people on the roads, but also the cold ground. We get a lot of winter storms around here where 2 days before it's 65 degrees. The ground is warm and it takes forever for things to start